Oh, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I wanted to have this workshop because there are so many people who are always asking me, well, how do I change my habits? I have these doggone habits that are driving me crazy. Or sometimes we want to create new habits, right? And so it's important for us to figure out, how can we do this? How can we create new habits with ease? Or how can we change some of the habits that are bothering us and make them easier? So we're going to go through this process today. Just a little bit about me. If you don't know me, I'm actually a psychotherapist. I've been doing psychotherapy for over 40 years. I'm a mindfulness and meditation teacher, trained trauma specialist. I'm also the chair of the Greater Houston Healing Collaborative. It's an organization that I put together in the Houston area. I'm on faculty for the Center for Mind-Body Medicine. That's a global trauma program that we do all over the world. And then I do all kinds of other things. Most recently, I'm a new grandma to grandchild number 10. So that's kind of fun. He interrupted our lives the other day unintentionally. So he came a little early, but he's doing great. So I'm enjoying being a grandma. So speaking of babies, one of the things that we often see is that people don't like to change. And so I have this little slide. No one likes change except a wet baby. And that's a common statement and phrase, but it's kind of true, right? And speaking of babies, that's one of my grandkids right there in that picture. So I'll try not to talk about grandkids the whole way. What typically happens for a lot of us, though, is the end result is that nothing changes, right? We just keep doing the same thing over and over. That's why I put the Groundhog Day reference here from the old movie, is just so we just keep repeating the same things over and over. And that becomes a problem.
I love that movie, by the way.
That's you do?
It's so stupid, but it's funny.
Yeah, it is. So what do you think we're longing for? When we're trying to change habits, what are we longing for? Any ideas?
Well, I think we're looking to change our circumstances or make something better that we think isn't working in our lives, or, so in my mind, change means, to me, change equals better.
Right. And I don't know if you can see this, because let me see if I can squeeze it. Whoops, there we go. Can you see that slide? So we're always looking for feelings of peace or success or productivity. But like you said, it's creating a life we love, right? And helping that move forward. So I have a question for you. What would it feel like if you could change your old habits and create some new ones? So what we have discovered is that habits overcome habits. So when you have bad habits, it's helpful to replace them with good habits. So Thomas à Kempis is a Christian philosopher from 100 years or more ago. And I got this quote from him: habits overcome habits. And it's something to think about, because that's really one of the ways that helps us gain success in changing our habits with ease. So there's a book written by James Clear called Atomic Habits that has lots of good information in it. And we're going to go through his program, not his program, but his 3-step process here. He talks about identifying triggers, that's the first step, is noticing what is the cue that has me prompting these behaviors. And then you create new micro habits around that, or as we will say in a minute, you'll create a new routine around it. Okay, so there's just small incremental steps that compound over time and that make a difference for us. And then we're going to celebrate the progress and notice and delight in our success. So habit formation, and in Charles Duhigg's work, The Power of Habit, he talks about how habits are formed and that there's a loop that is created. And understanding this loop will help us get past the bad habits also will help us cultivate more positive habits in our lives. So there's 3 basic skills that we're going to talk about tonight. And these are not the only skills that help you change habits, but these are the 3 that I wanted to target this evening because they work into my own philosophy of doing things, and I really like using them. So the first one is the habit loop. And like I said, I got this idea from James Clear in his book, Atomic Habits. So first of all, you look at the cue. Like, what is triggering this bad habit? Or what cue would trigger me into a new habit? So when you're thinking about the habit loop, you also have to think about when I'm wanting to change a bad habit, I need to make that bad habit hard. Make it hard to do. So for instance, if you want to stop eating sweets, then one way to make it hard is to not have any at your house. Okay. If you're wanting to start exercising, for instance, first thing in the morning, one thing that would help you is to make it easy. And maybe one thing to make it easy is have your clothes and your tennis shoes sitting right by your bed so you get in them as soon as you wake up in the morning. Okay, those are just examples, but it just gives you an idea of how you can create a cue or pay attention to a cue. And if you're wanting to stop a bad habit, you make it hard to do. If you're wanting to start a positive habit, you make it easy to do. I remember years ago when I was trying to get into exercise, I took a book. I think it was Bob Greene was one of the trainers that worked with Oprah. I bought his book for $5 at Barnes and Noble's on the discount table. And I stuck his book next to my bedside table, like right there by my lamp and alarm clock. I never even read that book. But just him standing there in front of me every morning when I woke up and turned the alarm off, got me out of bed and got me out to go for a run or to do something like that. So that was my cue, right? That was cue of creating a positive habit. So the other thing is the routine. And I talked about this a little bit in his slide that we went through real quickly, but the routine is creating behaviors. And if you can create very small micro behaviors, we're creating behaviors that help us with this habit. Okay. So small micro behaviors for eating healthier might simply be adding an extra glass of water during the day, or a small micro behavior for creating a new exercise routine would be like doing 1 push-up or doing 1 sit-up or walking for 5 minutes or maybe even 1 minute, but just getting that routine going. Okay. And then the reward is about celebrating what you have done. So the celebration part and giving yourself a high five and going, yay me, that is all super important. And the reason is a neurological reason. If you celebrate and your brain fires off that happy endorphin or a happy neurotransmitter, what's going to happen is your brain's going to start wanting more of that. Okay. So each time you see your cue, you practice your routine and you reward yourself, it's going to want more and you're going to be more likely to repeat that. So that's where it becomes looping. You're just looping those behaviors over and over and over again, or looping this pattern. Okay. So for instance, if you throw the leftover cookies out and you go into the pantry one night when you're really hungry and you don't eat the cookies, you instead get some more water or you drink some warm tea, and then you celebrate that and you're like, look at me do this. This is awesome. Or if it's related to any behaviors that you have at work, just celebrating yourself at work. You can even put a sticker on your computer or on your desk or on your chest, just to reward yourself. And that feels good. The brain likes that, and it's more likely to repeat that behavior. So writing and tracking your habits is also super important. If you write down your goals and the things that you want to change, you are 9 times more likely to do them. And if you track them, you are more likely to be successful as well. So there's a lot of research that supports this. One of my favorite things is watching people who track their sleeping habits through the Oura ring, O-U-R-A. If you're familiar with that ring, I do not wear one because I can't stand to wear rings at bedtime. But people will track their heart rate variability, how well they sleep, the temperature that their body gets to while they're sleeping, how many beats per minute for their heart, their breath, all kinds of things can be tracked through that Oura ring. And then they can keep track of what are my days like, what things do I eat, what activities do I perform that actually improve my sleep or that actually decrease and cause my sleep to be poor. And so keeping track of that is just keeping track of information, and information helps inform, obviously, how we're going to move forward and change things. So it's the same thing when you're writing down your goals. Did I do my goals today? What kept me from reaching those goals? You know, and all of those different things, it can be very, very helpful to keep track. So we'll talk a little bit more about how you can keep track as we move forward. And whooping was the other circle. So we had looping, we had writing and tracking, and then the third circle is whooping. So whoop is a skill that was taught by Dr. Gabriele Oettinger from Germany. And I believe she teaches somewhere here in the United States now, but she's a fantastic professor, does a tremendous amount of research on human behavior. And whooping is a great skill for change. So it goes like this. First of all, you think about wish. What is it you wish to accomplish? And I use this particular skill a lot with my work and my business. So what is it I wish to accomplish? The second thing is, what is the outcome I am hoping for? Like what do I want as an end result? If I get my wish, if I accomplish what I hope to accomplish, what is the outcome going to be? I'll give you an example in just a minute. And then we look at the obstacle. What obstacles might stand in our way so that we don't get our wish and we don't experience this outcome? And then the P stands for plan. And the plan is, if I come across said obstacle, then I will follow through with, doing this particular thing. Okay. So Dr. Oettinger, I'm not even sure I'm saying her name correctly, but she talked about motivation. A lot of people sit around and wait for motivation in order to make things happen. And she says motivation comes through action. And she's not the only one. Lots of researchers say you cannot just sit and wait for motivation. You have to get into action. So set aside that longing to be motivated and just get yourself moving and getting to action. So the Whoop exercise, let me give you an example of it. A wish is, what is I want to accomplish? Let's say I wanted to respond to all of my email today. What would be an outcome of that? Well, I might feel personally that I got a lot accomplished. A sense of accomplishment would be a good way to describe it. What might get me in the way of responding to all my email? Well, I might get distracted with the phone, or I might want to go watch TV, or I might start reading a book or something like that. So the plan would be, if I get distracted, then I will. And what you do is come up with that then. So for me, if I'm wanting to get my email done and I know I will have a sense of accomplishment if I've gotten my email done, then the plan is, if I get distracted, then I will bring my focus back by reminding myself or I will do some jumping jacks and wake myself up a little bit and come back to my email. Does that make sense? So think about, when I think of looping, I think of a lasso. It's just like my attention is going away. I'm getting distracted. I'm getting off course, and I'm lassoing myself back in with this plan. I'm pulling myself back in, paying attention to what I had said I wanted to do. Sometimes our default mode is, I feel like this, so I'll just do this. And that makes me, so we look at our feelings that lead to our actions, and then that leads to our identity. And so we might say, I'm someone who can't stay on a diet, or I'm someone who never remembers to exercise. And we let our actions inform our identity. But we can turn that around and think of ourselves in a certain way and say, I am a person who sticks to things. So I will, and think about the actions that we will do, which will make us feel a certain way. Okay, so we can reverse that whole process. And the way to do that is really to focus on our actions, right? And I love this quote. I got this quote when I was in grad school. I have no idea who said this, but some famous psychologist, I'm assuming. So it is easier to act ourselves into a new way of feeling than it is to feel ourselves into a new way of acting. And so that goes back to Gabrielle Oettinger's work, where she talks about, you can't wait for motivation. Motivation comes as a result of acting, okay? As we change our behaviors. So for instance, as Annie gets up every day at a better time, she's going to be more motivated to get up and do things, right? So as we change our actions, we will become more motivated. So another good example of this is my friend Lori. My friend Lori had a lot of problems. She had gone through a bad breakup. She was just miserable. She was depressed. She was tired. She had trained to be a coach, and then like a personal business leadership coach, and then tried to do it on her own. It didn't work. She ended up having to go back to her corporate job. She hated her corporate job. And so she was just really down in the dumps. And through this whole process, she gained a lot of weight, and she tried just eating healthier, but that didn't do it. So she decided, there's got to be something I can do. So she started just making changes one thing at a time. And I really love focusing on one thing at a time. So I was really excited to hear her do this. So first of all, she just did one jumping jack. And then the next day she did 2 jumping jacks. And the next day she did 2 jumping jacks and 1 squat. And then, and she started building it up to where she was doing like a pattern of 50 jumping jacks, but it was like 10 each time, followed by 10 squats, followed by 10 sit-ups. And then she did this over and over. And then she added walking 5 minutes. And then she added 10 minutes, and then added 15. And before long, she had come up with an exercise routine that lasted about 30 minutes, but she started feeling better. She started making better choices around her food. She got more confident with herself. She quit drinking. And then she started going back into coaching again and found a way to get out of her corporate job and create a coaching job. So just those very small little actions that she was taking made a huge difference in the direction and trajectory of her life. And so it doesn't have to be big, massive things. Like, you don't have to join a big club or, go on a drastic diet or jump into a major project management program to get things done. You can actually just start taking small little actions and move yourself. But it is important to identify what those are going to be. So I like helping people. I like helping people with ongoing support and accountability and creating a plan when they're starting on a new journey. So as a therapist, I think we don't do enough to help people. And so for me, I am trying to get out there and do as much as I can to help people who have mental health issues. And one of the ways that I'm trying to do it is through what I call my One Kind Thing program. And in the One Kind Thing program, we do focus on what is one thing that you can do. So I'm going to share a little bit of that with you. So here's my little logo that I'm using right now. Let's see, can y'all see that? Let me squeeze you out there. There we go. So when you're thinking about your life or when you're thinking about your business, you can actually change things in that one thing at a time. So thinking about the habits, looking at your habit, just make small, tiny, incremental changes, and eventually you will have created a new habit. And so when I'm looking at One Kind Thing, I chose KIND as an acronym that kind of goes along with the habit change practices or skills that we've been talking about. So K, know your targets and your goals. What are you trying to accomplish? Okay. And then identify one thing each day that you can change or you can work on. And I would recommend that you not try to work on 50 different things. I was listening to a podcast, a book review this morning of a book written by Jim Rohn, one of my favorite people. He's not alive any longer, but he had so much wisdom to share with people. And he's talking about don't try to be perfect or excellent in every area of your life. Just choose one area that I'm going to be really good at this, or I'm going to be really good at that. And so this is the same kind of concept, except you're going to pull it down to little micro behaviors. What's one thing I can do today? So like I said, if you're trying to start working out, maybe just do one squat or one push-up or one jumping jack or something like that. Okay. In the program that I'm teaching right now, we sit and think about what is one thing you can do today. And they write it down. And then the N stands for nurturing yourself and your commitment. If you're pushing yourself and pressuring yourself to change, that's not going to be helpful to you. But you nurture yourself and you nurture your commitment by just reminding yourself, this is what I'm doing today. So if you have to put a sticky note, I'm going to do this. So I've got a little sticky note of someone that I need to follow up with tomorrow, and I'm sticking on my computer. So when I get up tomorrow morning, it's there. And I can see it, and I'm reminding myself, oh yes, I am going to do this thing. Okay, and the D is delight in your success, and that's celebrating. Just like we talked about, giving yourself a little reward, like high five, way to go, dodge that bullet, good for you, all of those things, that's celebrating. And that's telling your brain that you want more of this, and your brain will crave it, and you'll start getting more and more focused and more accomplished on the things that you want to do. Okay, find my little arrow here. So when I lead this One Kind Thing program, which I've done a couple of times now, we focus on these things. So I know this isn't the best picture, but I'm also not an artist. So someday I'm going to learn how to put together PowerPoints better than this. But the basic roots of change and helping people develop mental health is focusing on their sleep, focusing on how they eat, how they move, and how they breathe. Those are the fundamentals. So it's like the roots of a tree. Sleep, eat, move, and breathe. So each week we pick one of those and we look at the micro behaviors and micro movements that we can make to improve our sleep, to improve how we eat, to improve how we move, and to improve how we breathe. And then we start working on the next 4 modules, which is a little higher up, is how we think, our mindset, how we serve, how we give to the world around us, because that's important in helping us get outside of ourselves. How we connect. And so that's creating relationship dynamics that are healthy, and also learning better communication skills. And then the create is finding purpose and meaning in life and creating a life worth living. So in the One Kind Thing program, these are the 8 modules that we focus on. The fundamentals at the bottom, and then the think, serve, connect, and create is the next level. in each of our modules, we talk about the why. Like, why are we focusing on this? Why is it important for us to sleep? Why is it important for us to eat? How does that have anything to do with mental health or well-being? And then we focus on the skills and we track them. Like, what are you going to be doing? And then tracking it. And then we also weekly have peer support and accountability with each other. So there is a group that meets once a week and we focus on these things and support each other. So for instance, last month, someone said that they were having trouble with sleeping and they were using all the skills that we had talked about, and they were not seeing too much of a difference. And one of the members in the group said, well, are you taking any magnesium at night? And the other member said, yes, I am, but I'm only taking like 120 milligrams. And so we all said, whoa, okay, you probably need a little more than that. And so he started using more magnesium, and that made a difference. So just adding some support and understanding, you know, other people struggling with the same thing, I think is really important. And so when I'm working with people, typically I only see people 1 hour a week. And then I've realized, you know, we could offer so much more support than that. So I put together this program that they can get a lot of information in. They can get a lot of peer support and accountability. And the other thing is I send an email out every single day with more information and more motivation. So people get modules, they get emails, and they meet once a week for group. And that's really helping people make shifts and changes in their lives. So think about what it is that you want to change, or how do you want to grow? And yeah, let's go for it, right? So I want to encourage you one more time, make a plan. You know, use the One Kind Thing acronym if you want to. Know what your targets are and your goals. Identify one thing each day that you can change and work on, and nurture yourself and your commitment, and then delight in your success. All right, so if you have any interest in working with me, there are several ways that you can do that. Number one, you can, call for one-on-one sessions. I'm happy to do that for you. I do all my work online, so the nice part is you don't have to leave your home or your job. You can just connect with me that way. We actually run the One Kind Thing full program now. So if you decide that you are interested in doing that, you'll get access to all 8 modules and multiple resources, including recipes, eating plans. We offer meditations, worksheets, various things that people do to help them work through the modules. So all of that is online. We have weekly coaching groups. Right now we're meeting on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. We have daily educational and motivational emails, and then quarterly individual coaching sessions. So once a quarter, so 4 times a year, you get a free hour-long session with me. So we have a price for that. If you're interested, it's $249 a month. If you want to pay in full, there's a discount.